Two recent developments could reshape the power dynamics in West Asia, or the Middle East as some would like to call it. One, Israel's daring airstrike on Hamas leaders in Qatar. And two, a bold shift in Israel's strategy against the Houthis in Yemen. Now, these are not isolated events. They are a piece of a larger puzzle, one where Israel is aggressively pursuing what some call a new Middle East, free from the threats that have haunted it for decades. It's been nearly 2 years since the 7th October 2023 Hamas attacks in Israel, which killed more than 1,200 people, mostly civilians. More than 200 were taken hostage. The attacks shatter the fragile calm and ignited a war in Gaza, which has claimed more than 64,000 Palestinian lives. Women and children make up around half the dead. Israel responded by vowing to dismantle the so-called axis of resistance led by Iran, which comprises Hamas in Gaza, Hezbollah in Lebanon, and the Houthis in Yemen. It has bombed 4 capitals in Lebanon, Syria, Iran, and Yemen, and now a 5th in Qatar. It goes to show just how far Israel is willing to go. Let's begin with the Israeli strikes in Qatar. On 9 September, explosions rocked Qatar's capital Doha. As part of an operation codenamed Summit of Fire, Israeli jets dropped precision munitions on a residential compound in the upscale West Bay Lagoon area. The target was a meeting of top Hamas leaders, including Khalil al-Hayya, the group's exiled Gaza chief and lead negotiator for ceasefire talks. A lot of planning would have gone into the execution of these strikes. Israel knew that the Hamas leaders were in Doha discussing a US-sponsored ceasefire proposal. So the Israeli intelligence would have been tracking the Hamas delegation for weeks. Prime Minister Netanyahu and Defense Minister Israel Katz greenlit the operation just hours after Hamas fighters carried out a deadly attack in Jerusalem on 8 September, in which 6 Israelis were killed. The jets took off from bases in Israel, flew low to evade radar, and struck within seconds, all 10 bombs hitting their mark. Israel called it a quote-unquote precise strike, but apparently it missed the intended targets and killed 6 others instead. Al-Hayya's son, his office manager, 3 other Hamas affiliates, and a Qatari security officer. An unspecified number of civilians were injured too. After all, the neighborhood is full of expat families and embassies. Incidentally, the attack site is located barely 2 kilometers from the hotel where US President Donald Trump stayed when he visited Qatar in the month of May. Was the operation successful? Now, that's a question that Trump asked Netanyahu too. Netanyahu's answer, according to the Wall Street Journal, was, "I don't know." But Hamas claims that its senior leaders, including al-Hayya, survived the Israeli attacks. The group called it a failed assassination. For his part, Netanyahu took full responsibility for the strikes. He said it was entirely an Israeli operation, and he justified it by saying that the strikes were aimed at those who were behind the 7th October 2023 massacre. Israel accuses al-Hayya, who took over after Ismail Haniyeh's assassination in Tehran last year, of stalling the ceasefire talks and prolonging the war. Now, Israel might have missed the target, but they delivered the message loud and clear that Hamas's political wing, once untouchable in Doha, is not safe anywhere. The psychological blow of Israel hitting the heart of Hamas's command structure abroad is massive and of another order of magnitude.
There was a time when Jews could be murdered with impunity. But since the founding of the State of Israel, those days are over.
The backlash was swift. Qatar called it a cowardly act and a violation of its sovereignty. Now, Qatar's predicament is understandable. It is a U.S. security partner, a major non-NATO ally, and home to the largest U.S. military base in West Asia. It's also heavily involved in the Gaza ceasefire talks. Even the U.S. under Trump expressed rare disapproval. Trump said that unilaterally bombing inside Qatar, a sovereign nation and close ally of the U.S. that is working very hard and bravely taking risks with us to broker peace, does not advance Israel or America's goals. He was quick to add, though, that eliminating Hamas, who have profited of the misery of those living in Gaza, is a worthy goal. Trump says that he was notified of the attack and that his special envoy in turn had informed Qatar. But by then, the Israeli jets were already in the air. It was too late to stop it. Now, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Egypt, Turkey and the UN all condemned it as a breach of international law. The UAE, which normalized its ties with Israel under the Abraham Accords of 2020, called it blatant and cowardly. The Qatar strike should be seen as the latest in a series of the bold and extraterritorial operations carried out by Israel. But, and this is an important but, unlike past operations in hostile turf such as Iran or Syria, the strikes in Qatar hit a U.S. ally's capital city. To that extent, it is unprecedented. The Bloomberg news agency reported that the Qatar bombing shows Israel's belief that strength will win out. It says many Israelis, especially those leading and supporting the Netanyahu government, believe that peace will only come from strength and that defeating Hamas, its affiliates and the Iranian sponsor is the way to do it. The Jerusalem Post says something similar. It quotes Dan Diker, the president of the Jerusalem Center for Public Affairs, as saying that the Qatar strikes were a declaration that the rules of engagement have changed.
We went after the terrorist masterminds who committed the October 7th massacre. And we did so in Qatar, which gives safe haven. It harbors terrorists. It finances Hamas. It gives its terrorist chieftains sumptuous villas. It gives them everything. So we did exactly what America did when it went after the terrorists, the Al-Qaeda terrorists, in Afghanistan, and after they went and killed Osama bin Laden in Pakistan. And I say to Qatar and all nations who harbor terrorists, you either expel them or you bring them to justice. Because if you don't, we will.
So the Qatar strikes fit a pattern of decapitation of breaking the axis led by Iran, which comprises the Hamas, Hezbollah and the Houthis. And that brings us to Yemen, where Israel's strategy against the Iran-backed rebels who control Yemen's north is evolving even more dramatically. For months, the Houthis have fired missiles at Israel and disrupted Red Sea shipping in solidarity with Gaza. In March 2025, the U.S. launched a military campaign against Houthi targets in Yemen. The operation, codenamed Rough Rider, ended on 6th May. It remains the largest U.S. military operation in West Asia during Trump's second term in office. Israel, too, has carried out similar attacks, targeting Yemen's infrastructure such as ports and power plants. But Israel is changing tack. Now its strategy is to assassinate Houthi leaders. On 28th August, Israeli jets struck a Houthi meeting in Sana'a, killing Prime Minister Ahmed al-Rahawi, 9 ministers and 2 top officials, 12 in all. Al-Rahawi, a symbolic figurehead, was the highest profile kill yet, marking Israel's shift from degrading capabilities to eliminating command. Why the change? Well, for one, destroying Yemen's infrastructure didn't really deter the Houthis. Case in point, the Houthis withstood Saudi Arabia-led bombings for years. But assassinations sow chaos and signal that no one is safe. Gaza and Lebanon are good examples. Israel decimated Hamas's underground tunnels, killing its leaders, and Hezbollah lost Nasrallah, and thousands of rockets, forcing it to agree to a ceasefire. Now, the third H, Houthis, are in Israel's crosshairs. It's the last piece of Iran's proxy puzzle. This ties into Israel's grand vision of a new Middle East. Israel has already ensured that Bashar al-Assad's fall in Syria cuts Iran's land bridge. By neutralizing the last of the three H's, Israel aims to further isolate Iran and secure its interests in the wider region. It's an audacious strategy every which way you look at it. Critics say it's an endless war, but Israel calls it survival. Israel's Defense Minister Israel Katz has vowed to inflict biblical plagues on Yemen's Houthis. He invoked the 10 disasters that the book of Exodus says were inflicted on Egypt by the Hebrew God to convince the pharaohs to free the enslaved Israelites. But the question is, will any or all of this, the unprecedented Israeli strikes against Hamas leaders in Qatar and the shift in Israel's strategy against Houthis in Yemen, forge peace or ignite a war? In this high-stakes game, will Israel be able to arrange the last piece of the jigsaw puzzle that is the new Middle East? Watch this space.